G'day, it's Rob here again. Well, today I'm working on a little project, this little wing nut thumb screw that you use to lock the legs on a tripod with. I thought I'd replace it with something bigger, easier to use, not so hard on your fingers. So I machined up this, which is haven't quite finished here, still got to finish the back off, but basically just machine this up out of some home cast aluminium, and that'll replace that, so it'll be a lot easier to use. Now, the situation is that this is a 1/4 Whitworth bolt, so this has to have a 1/4 Whitworth centre, so I've tapped it out to 1/4 Whitworth. Here's a 1/4 Whitworth bolt which we'll use, and that's threaded, so that just screws in, and basically it'll screw through, and the head will be in the centre, flush, you know, with the bottom. And you just, normal procedure is you just lock it in with a bit of Loctite, some 262 stud lock. That's pretty good. But I was thinking, well, you know, I don't really want to see the end of the head sticking out there. So I thought, oh, I might try something today. I haven't, look, I bought it like about, I'm not kidding you, 30 years ago. Now, I've never used them, but my brother-in-law uses them all the time. I mean, we had a field day and we both bought packets of these rods at the same time. He's used all his up, and then he's forever sponging ones off of me, so I've only got about a half left what I started with. But it's these things. You know, I always used to sell these at field days, you know, Techni 2000, they're called all sorts of things, aluminium brazing rod. And you'd always have some dude there, and you'd have a little stand, and he'd have an old Coke can or a beer can, and he'd punch a hole in the bottom, and then he'd fix it up with these rods, these aluminium rods. Because, I mean, normally, if you were using TIG or anything to do aluminium, you'd have to have a gas shield to do it. But these rods, supposedly, you can use them without a gas shield, provided everything's spotlessly clean. And the brother-in-law's used them and repaired quite a bit of stuff. You know, the aluminium cutting plate on his Hitachi circular saw broke off, which is no wonder the way he treats stuff. But anyway, and he just rebaited it, the two bits, and put them together and welded it up with this stuff. So I thought, well, okay, it's meant to go onto aluminium, but in this case the screw will go in below the level of the outside. And I thought, well, how will I go, I wonder, screwing this in and then cover over the whole area with one of these rods, you know, to see. I mean, it doesn't have to bond to the steel as such, but as long as it bonds to the aluminium, it will keep the bolt in place, the screw in place, and then I can just face it off and get a clean finish. So that's the theory. Will it work? I've no idea, so we'll try it and see. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll wash this and the bolt off with acetone, which is the best degreasing agent you can get. Handy stuff, this. Always wear gloves when you handle, you know, nitrile gloves when you handle this stuff. I wear these, and these are supposed to be, I know this is like an advertising show, but it's not. It's just the ones I use. They're KBS Black Lightning nitrile gloves, and they're supposed to be the world's toughest disposable gloves, you know. I don't know, but they're pretty good. I mean, I must say, they're not very expensive. You get a heap of them for bugger all, really. I think a box like that's about $20. Okay, so we'll give this a bit of a wash off, because when I parted it off, I had, you know, used some cutting fluid on it, so we want everything squeaky clean to do this job. Oh, let's just do it all. Get the air duster. I'll put this on a bit of paper. Where's some paper? Alright, put it on a bit of paper just to keep it still clean. you bastard. Have to do that again. Okay. Alright, so everything's spotlessly clean. Now we'll thread this in. We'll cut this bolt back to length afterwards. Right. So now we're ready to carry out the experiment to see whether or not these rods will actually go over the top of the bolt head. So a bit of crud in the slot. I'll have to clean that out before I do, but anyway, you get the gist of what we're going to do. So yeah, we'll get on with it. To get more aluminium over the head of the bolt, I've decided to grind some of the head back. I mean, it doesn't really have to do much, so we'll just, I mean, you can turn it off with a lathe, but it's easy, just as easy as a grinder on it. That'll do. So, look at the slot there, so we can still screw it up tight. It's a little bit warm. Alright, we'll get it in. So that'll give us a better coverage of aluminium over the head of the bolt, which is really what, you know, because we have to face this back, and I don't want to have the bolt head coming out if we run out of aluminium. That looks pretty good. We're down a fair way, so that should be quite alright. I mean, I've never tried this before. Let's see if it works. Might stuff up my lovely machining job. Okay, let's get on with it. Okay, so I've got it insulated and held level. And when the guys demonstrate these rods, they just use a little map gas torch. So I'll use the bullfinch, which is basically the same thing. And we'll have a go, see what happens. I've never done this before. Well, that was quick. You can see that it melted and then it scummed over with an oxide. We just have to hope that it's actually bonded to the aluminium itself. So I'll let it cool down and we'll machine it back and see what we've got. Or see if it falls out. It could even just fall out. Well, here's the finished product. I'll just put it under tap, cool it down. Well, once it's solidified, it stays liquid for quite a while. This is actually supposed to be harder and stronger than the base aluminium, so we'll just have to see how it machines, see if it tears out the centre or what it does, but it looks pretty ugly at the moment. But I'll put this in the Shawbin, use a collet to hold it. Once again, this is where collets are fantastic. You can grip a thread like that without any risk of damage whatsoever, whereas if you use, say, a normal chuck, you've got a good chance of ripping up the thread, flattening the thread tops off. So We use the old Shorby for this. Oh, give the old deal a bit of oil. This is just ATF. Power steering fluid, anything like that'll be okay. Now I've got the colour aligned with the centre pretty well. I haven't tried it yet, so we'll see how it goes. Right, I think I might do this a bit faster. Knock the camera here, I'm doing this arse about. Trying to do this so you can see without. Well, it hasn't come out, so that's something. I'll have to move the camera, I can't see what I'm doing here. Right, now we're good. It's machining up alright, no problem. Pretty good. Pretty damn good. Yeah. Right, check that out. That doesn't look too damn bad at all, does it? I mean, that's way better than looking at the head of a bolt or a screw. And the only other way you could do this would be to cast the bolt into some molten aluminium, which I have done in the past. And I've done screwdriver handles like that as well, but it's a simple way of doing it with these rods and never looks like letting go, so it's obviously doing the job. Great. Oh, we'll take it out and I'll just show it to you and then I'll go on and finish it off. Well, here's the final job. And even though it looks good, there's something amiss. You can see that. There's a difference. And the reason is that, look at that. The aluminium hasn't taken to the cast aluminium, so the aluminium brazing rod hasn't stuck to the aluminium like it's supposed to, but it's stuck to the steel, which is weird. And it seemed pretty strong, you know, it doesn't want to come off. I didn't prise around it because I don't want to destroy the finish. So what I'll do is, I was going to use Loctite 262 on it originally, so I'll still use Loctite 262 on it, super stud lock. This is what you use on Ducatis, you put the engines together. That's why I've got it. So we'll stud lock the thread into the knob and also stud lock the aluminium in. So at the end of the day it's all going to be good and solid, and it's still going to look pretty damn good, certainly way better than having a crappy old screw head there. So anyway, yeah, it worked, but not the way I intended. So there you go, food for thought. Aluminium brazing rods, they sort of work, but I mean, it's the first time I've ever used them, so maybe I didn't do it quite right, but it all seemed to go according to plan. Anyway, food for thought. So anyway, Hope you got something out of that. I did. I've learned a bit, and I'll play around with these a bit more and just see what they're capable of doing. But overall, yeah, the end result was pretty okay, in a funny sort of way. Okay, see you next time. Cheers.